Okie dokie.
We're live on Facebook.
All right. Live on Facebook.
Yep.
It just seems like forever since we've been together, huh?
Yep.
Well,
You're
the
listening
world's
to
busy.
WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in overcast, light rain, Northport, Florida, which reminds me, slow your butts down today on the streets because oil and water don't mix. And we don't need any of my listeners in the hospital and any potential listeners. I don't want you in the hospital. Just take your time, relax, get home safe, and just think everybody out there is one of your loved ones. I think if we all change that mindset, we can get to a different place in life. So I've got a very special guest. It's been a few months now, but Vanessa Carisone is in the house. How you doing, Vanessa?
Woo, I'm good. I'm good. How are you, man?
Not doing too bad. So,
No?
I thought we'd tee this up with trying to get our community engaged with voting because we've got a huge vote coming up in August with the school board. And then we've got another one coming up in November. And we've got to figure out a way to get people engaged. And the listeners out there, if you throw comments up there about how to get people engaged, what you think we should be doing, who I should get on the show to talk about this, I would love some engaged conversation about this. I have been talking about this for about,
10 years.
4 or 5 years here on the radio.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think that we actually have people who actually talk a good game, but then we get the vote, and the vote counts out there, and it does fall short. When you ran back in the day, it was the same problem, right?
I don't know about that. I think my very first run, I don't know. My very first run, no. I remember we were a lot smaller community and
Right.
we only had what, 18,000 population. I mean, it was small. But in the same token, I mean, we were very politically connected. Like it was what was important in the city at that time. You
Do
know what
you
I
think
mean?
do you think we've lost that politically being connected to our community because of the growth?
I think what happened is they shifted that old school theory that community was politics. And now we actually have other things that are community. Community gated communities. We have a lot more of those. We've got, events that bring people together that we didn't have as many as we do now. So I think that all those things combined, plus honestly, I think it's about people's time. Look at the economy today, and people are working 2, 3 jobs just to make rent. So I really don't know if it's so much, a choice anymore as it is maybe unintended consequences of where we're at.
So, I've talked about that too, and we can give all those excuses in the world and tee
True,
that
but
up
we have,
because there are so many different ways that you can vote now.
I agree.
And I think some of it is also the lack of communication that we have into our community. We don't have the TV station. We have our radio, and we try to get that word out. And I'm going to give us some props because we do a good job at it. But the reverse side of that is we are a community radio station. We're not a everyday listening music radio station that you can go up and down the coast with. Our range is very specific, and it is our listening audience, our listening and viewing audience. So, it's trying to get these other groups, other organizations, I think, not just to be maybe politically motivated on one side or the other, but maybe vote driven.
Well, I
Get
think you bring up a excellent point because, back when I ran that first time, we had a TV station. Like we had SNN and it was it SNN? No, it was the local cable.
what's that sign?
And I don't know. I feel
Sarasota
like it
News
was something
Network.
else.
That
Well,
was
it was remember it was what was it called? The View from Here or something like that? Northport, The View from Here.
oh, that was different. Yeah, that was before my time.
Yeah, it was wow, Gene Matthews. He was the host. And it
Oh,
was
that
on the
was
Comcast. It was on Comcast. Because I was on it several times. And yeah, Comcast actually did the television, the televised meetings and all of that. So he had his own show on there. And I want to say it was like either weekly or monthly. I can't remember. That was a long time ago, man. But yeah,
absolutely.
we had our own, Northport show,
So
and it was really
gone,
cool.
we've actually kind of gone backwards if
Yeah,
you look at it that way. Uh,
true, true.
because we've lost that connection with our
Hmm.
community. With what's going on now, and people that are out there listening, if you've got ideas or thoughts or even things that you're doing to get information out, we would love to hear. Just put it in the comments, and I'll definitely follow back around with you. But Pete Emmerich said it's happy hour somewhere. I got to agree with him. It's just not here at our desks right now, unfortunately.
No,
But
definitely not.
yeah, so we've got we've got school board coming up in August, and that's a
Oh my
really good
gosh,
thing for me.
yeah.
And tell me what the value that having the right school board member in play when you were a commissioner. I know that it's two separate types of things, but isn't there some camaraderie and some conversation that goes on there?
Absolutely. I mean, we worked really hard to have a good I mean, we helped with the purchase of property for the future schools. We helped with the whole future school plan. We talked, I don't know, repeatedly over and over again about the fact that we needed another high school. Well, let's give a perfect example of the fact that there's going to be another school built in West Villages, aka Welland Park. Well, when you take that and create a school, you're going to take it off the property tax rolls. So, and let's face it, where they want to put it is going to serve basically Inglewood children, not the city of Northport. So that's not going to help the citizens and the school system that's already pretty much overburdened by the population. And those are the kind of conversations that need to take place. And they have in the past. I mean, we always had a joint meeting with the school board, with the county, with Charlotte County, contrary to other people believing this was the first time Northport ever met with Charlotte County. That's not true. All of these different entities, City of Northport met on a monthly basis and or annual basis. And so, we helped with the school tax, trying to promote that. Um, we waived our fees. I think they were our permitting fees for the building of the middle school and elementary schools. So, there is it's a give and take. We had a joint agreement for us to allow the public to participate in using their school facilities like the playground and stuff. We actually, the city of Northport, I say we, I mean the city of Northport. City of Northport actually paid for the overhang that went on Glen Allen to make sure there was a shaded area. So I mean, there's just a plethora of things that, the two joined together really do have to collaborate about, and that relationship needs to be fostered over the next election because it's unfortunately the majority board right now is not really fostering that relationship as far as I can see and as far as what I hear out there.
And you're still relatively connected with a lot of the commissioners being friends and associates along that way, right?
I'm I try not to be connected.
Yeah.
Really do. Like I pay attention to meetings. I kind of, I'm wrapped up in my own little work and other things, and but yeah, I still get phone calls. I still I
Sure.
still get complaints. I get people that call me and think I'm still a commissioner, and it's been how many years?
Uh,
So yeah.
geez.
Every year, around this time, I get the slew of calls. Okay, who am I voting for? So yeah, I mean, there's still some connection. Yeah,
What
yeah.
do you find that that brings good values to a school board commissioner working with the commission or school board candidate? What are some of the values that you think people should look for so that Northport voters actually identify with the person who's targeting their need?
Let me tell you what I've seen over the years is that there's a lot of people who will offer their opinions, a lot of people who will have a conversation, a lot of people who will address issues, but not a whole lot of people that listen. They don't have comprehensive listening skills. Um, and I think that in order for you to find that middle ground, to find ways that each gives, there has to be listening skills so that one side knows what the other side is really saying. Um, so that communication is pretty essential. I mean, and I don't want to beat up on teachers because believe it or not, I'm a tutor, so kind of beating up on myself a little bit here. But
Right.
I feel like when you're a teacher, it's almost as if you don't have that listening skill because you have so many children that you're doing at one time. Um, but yet those who are in different fields, not all of them, trust me, I've seen it with the city's own commission, but um, they have the ability to kind of sit back and listen and take it all in and kind of jot notes down and then say, listen, what I heard you say was, and so why don't we come to the agreement that maybe we should do it this way so that you can get that and I can get this. So I think, that whole listening skill, communication, good communication too, not just shooting an email. Yeah, great to see you, actually answering your email. And as a school board member, I don't want to hear that um, I'm not in their district and they can't address whatever the issue is. I want to hear that you're going to, even though you're not my district leader, I want to hear that you're going to address it, which is something that I've had in the past with certain school board members who uh, did go out of their way, even though we weren't in their district. So, um, and I think that knowing a little bit about Northport, how about that fact? I mean,
Do,
you
do,
kind of need to know the place.
do you feel like that there are people out there now that are running that you are leaning towards more right now?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I have my candidates, and I don't know if you want me to go into that, but um, I know that I support Enos. That when I worked with him on when there was that transition on the school police department deal, we all sat around, and it was funny because it was like my first meeting as the mayor, and I was kind of thrown into it because I wasn't a part of these conversations prior. But and it was very, sorry, very controversial. If you remember, the early days, it was
Big time.
pretty controversial conversations. And Mr. Enos was just so cool, collective, and he listened to all of the municipalities' concerns, and he addressed them head on, one by one by one by one. And he was more of a solution driven individual versus saying, "Oh, okay, I hear you, and there's nothing we can do about it," which some of the school boards did say. But school board members that were there. But no, I really worked well with him on some other things, Justice Commission wise. But he's I think he brings everything to the table that is really needed, and he knows Northport. He's been here over and over again. He knows the city. He's been a part of the community, and I think that plays well too.
So you kind of favored him because of the inner working relationship that you had, and his
Hmm.
background, of
Hmm.
course. But
Absolutely.
so the the whole thing is when we as citizens look at a school board representative, I kind
Hmm.
of step back at myself, and I really I must be that thinking kind of guy. I want to gauge them on their conversation. I want to gauge them on some questions. I want to understand where they put Northport collectively,
Hmm.
and I'm not talking Northport, West Villages, Welland Park, all the neighborhood stuff. I'm talking collectively because for a long time, a really long time, Northport has kind of been the back burner. Hey, we'll get to you shortly type of school.
And I mean, we have the largest school population in the
Right,
county.
right.
You can't ignore us. Hello. Um, how about we start asking these candidates, do you know where the schools are located in the city of Northport and what's adjacent to them? Do you know, who the mayor is?
Right.
You know, I mean, honestly, do you know what the number one issue is in the city of Northport? And what is it that these students are facing in the city? How mental health plays a huge role. How what are the obstacles of folks like Holly's Hope, who've been trying, which I'm sure they're successful now, but had taken years to try to get into the schools to help with, suicide prevention. Hello, this happens. You can't just shove your head in the sand and say it's not happening, or just focus on North Sarasota because you think that's where your voting block is. It doesn't, you know what? I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but if Northport doesn't get out there and vote, you cannot complain because, for years, everyone in the county was very afraid of Northport because theoretically, with our population, we should be the voting bloc. But because people choose not to vote or they don't think it affects them, then, those votes don't come out and we're no longer, considered a threat or even a consideration. And so, we're creating our own destiny, essentially. And if people do not get out there and start showing that we do have the power to make a change, there's nothing that can be done.
Well, and the old saying that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The
Hmm.
reason that North County gets more grease, and it's that they do vote.
Absolutely.
We've got to re-energize our community to understand that if we want people to focus on us, the power is in the vote. And I've said this before. You can teach
Hmm.
people to vote. We can teach them to vote. We can teach them to get out and vote. And then we can educate them on why they're voting and who they're voting for. But unless we build that momentum of the vote and we have that support to at least be willing to be a valid participant in your community when it comes to voting,
Hmm.
that's going to be the biggest stumbling block that we're going to face. And yes, we can have these shows. Yes, we can all over YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I do this every week. I have,
A
on.
number of people on.
Listen, we have a number of people on that talk about the need for communication, open door,
Hmm.
uh, open door policy, basically with households saying, there are real problems within our households, but if we're
Hmm.
not willing to open our hearts and minds and have conversations about it, it gets nowhere. On top of that, the less that we participate in the local voting arena, the less we're going to get up the ladder. And that doesn't
You know
matter
what
if it's
else?
or on a political level further up the chain through the state. But go
I
ahead.
couldn't agree more. I think another thing that I've heard quite often is people who have newly, moved here and they say, well, listen, I just moved here. I really don't know anyone. I really don't know anything about this uh, election. So I'm not going to vote for anyone but the governor. You know what I mean? And that's so sad to me that they pick and choose what it is or who it is that they're going because they don't understand that your local government is so much more important than, you know, I shouldn't say state, but state and, you know, um, your federal government. I I guess
You know what
people
though?
just
We're willing to ask people about their favorite restaurant. We're willing to ask
hmm.
where's your favorite grocery store? How where can I,
Publix.
here's the library. Okay.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
we're afraid to ask people, hey, I just moved here and there's a vote coming up and I really want to vote or I should vote. It's my responsibility to vote. Can you give
Well,
even if they get I hate to say this, but even if they give you bad insight and you go vote,
at
get
least you
ready,
voted,
get
again, at
educated.
least you voted.
Right. And there's I've said this word and it's my favorite word when it comes to this election stuff. People are lazy,
Hmm.
lazy. And yes, you can work 5 jobs a week. I don't care. It is 100% as a citizen of our town and to vote. It's your God given right. People fight and lose their lives for people to be able to go vote. And
Amen.
it's, we get wishy washy unless it's this unforeseen thing like a policy change with the Supreme
Hmm.
Court, and that gets everybody fired up. But you know what they forget to do? Vote local. They go out
Well,
there.
not only that, they don't. They
and
don't read all information either. They like
right,
headlines. And I
right.
guess that's why, you know, newspapers have been able to, not just newspaper, but the media, period, has been able to sway opinions of pretty much all of the population. And but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's teeing up for like a month and a half's worth of show.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
so with the school board stuff, really just encourage people. The listening audience out there, please encourage people to go vote, to get educated. One, it's in August, so it's going to be what I kind of consider a downtime to vote because it's going to fly under
Uh-huh.
the radar of most people.
That is a
And it's
problem.
going to affect. And here's the thing, I don't understand it either because if we're the largest school system of
Hmm.
the Sarasota County, we got 5 elementaries that dump into 2 middle that dump into 1 high school. Every
Yep.
parent should be voting on school issues. Every
No
parent,
joke.
and we don't. It put a score referendum on there, and you get a massive turnout. Put somebody in there voting and telling you what you're going to do with your kids, and they don't care. I don't.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what happens on those referendums? They'll vote on the referendum, but they won't vote on the school board member.
Yep, you're right. You're right, and it makes no sense to me. And
It
unless
just
we
it
get
just
people
doesn't
out
make sense.
that actually care about the school board choice and face it, even your local representative
Hmm.
choice. Okay, we in November we have another bout of elections that are going to shape our city,
Yep,
and that's how you got
for
to look at it.
sure.
You got an election in August that's going to shape the school board because there's three. There's
You're
three new
right.
people, and God, we need reshaping of our school board. We do.
We surely need new reshaping. That's a fact.
And
Uh,
here's the thing. I wish them
but
all
you
well.
know what? You know what? They could have changed it in 20, what was it, 2014?
Yep.
They had the choice. You know, we had an election with some very, very, very good candidates, and people chose to go with the same old, same old. Um, why? I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that you know, I've had a lot of people turn around and say, "Oh, what were they? You had a choice. You know, you made a choice to vote for that person. I don't know. Like my grandmother would say, sit in your bed. You made the mess. Now you can lay in it.
Yeah.
You know, what
Well,
else you gonna say?
it happens, and we've got commissioners running in November, and
Mm.
we've got to stay on task there too. And people need to do educational. And
Oh,
and
dear
and
God, yes.
so if you're willing to get online and look at the ESPN sports lines, are you kidding me? You can't read about who's running for school board and who's running for
Hmm.
city commission,
Hmm.
and you can't go vote.
Hmm.
Now, I think I want to believe in this. I should have checked this real quick because I did hear that it is now too late to register for absentee voting because of the change that they had. But
I
let me
don't
go pull
think
that up.
for the
November.
I yeah, I don't think for November. It's probably too late for the August, but definitely I don't think it's too late for November. Because they go by a certain amount of days. So if I could see that it's too
Pulling
late
it up.
for the
I'm
August
actually
vote.
pulling it up too. It will take 2 minutes to register for an absentee vote, and you can do it right online. It's
And that's
vote.org.
SarasotaVotes.com, isn't it?
Yep. Well, that too. SarasotaVotes.com. And here's the thing: if people just got on and registered, they'd start getting information.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you'd get enough cards that would make you want to start a bonfire. I can tell you that.
All right, so don't not sign up because of that. But keep in mind that if you're
You're
going,
gonna get them anyways, but yeah,
that's right, that's right. It's yeah, it's still available, and you can track your vote,
yeah.
do all this stuff. I'm gonna pull this up online real quick and let you guys
Hmm.
get it on online. But the
That's the
value,
other cool. I'm glad you said that because that's the other cool thing. There's been times when, we're like, did our vote like actually go through? I know I dropped it off and I'm not sure. And so we can go right online and say, oh, there it is. Yeah, it's been counted for. I got to tell you that I think that what Ron Turner has done with the Sarasota County Elections Supervisor of Elections Office is just amazing because he really has brought it up to the turn of the century. Because back in the day, it was something to be desired, but he's done a incredible job. He really has. I'm just so proud of him.
what
And I love him to death, so there's that.
with that?
I said, and I love him to death. There's that.
Well, that those are special things, though. That's all good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
with what's going on in city commission, why should people pay attention to that?
Well, I think that one of the bigger problems when it comes to the city commission is that I'm not sure that folks understand how something as simple as de-annexing Welland Park could play a role in the long run. Um, the whole reason why the city annexed Taylor Ranch properties and created this master plan was to diversify our tax base to bring in a level housing market, to add a certain percentage of commercial property because we lacked commercial property. And the sad thing is now that the commission has made certain decisions, we are probably lacking even more. But that was the purpose. And back in the day when all that was kind of developed and planned was that it was well known, still well known, that you have to have a certain percentage of commercial and residential in order to be a healthy and um, municipality, county, government, doesn't matter, right? Um, and we knew right away that we had a problem having so much residential. So, how does that affect the citizens of Northport? Well, if you take that property away, now we have to go back to the drawing board, determine how are we going to diversify that tax base once again. A lot of those residentials are going to get zoned and rezoned, commercial in order to offset that commercial loss. You're going to have to find areas that you can rezone it for higher end housing, which may be gated communities and plotted right in the middle of your residential area. Um, and it won't be until the day that those changes occur that the resident gets upset and says, wait a minute, this was never planned. What are you doing? Well, there's a cause and effect to everything. So if we want to make certain that our future continues on a positive trajectory, it is imperative that we make sure that we vet these upcoming candidates to make sure that they have what's in the best interest of the city overall and not what's in the best interest of themselves. Because there's a few of them on there.
So with that being said, what are some of the questions that you would direct at the sir? And they've already kind of gone through some questions with the Chamber of Commerce. I want to try to have the candidates on. I had one on already, and he did,
Mm-hmm.
what I could tell, uh, a phenomenal job, and I'll give him kudos, because there were at least four times in that interview over an hour that he said on camera on the radio
Mm-hmm.
show, that's a tough question. And I think anytime that you can get a candidate to say that to you four times, you're doing your job as somebody who's throwing questions.
Absolutely.
And I look forward
Or
to having.
how about you make sure they answer the question?
Yeah, well, that's the big thing, and I
That was
do.
the big problem with the chamber one, was that, certain individual was just kind of skirting around the question. I'm like, that's not even a question. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, and I want to talk something real quick about politics too. Is just because,
Hmm.
and this goes for anybody who's running. You use the words honest, you use the word integrity, you use all these things on your signs, okay? And
Hmm.
we can go all the way up the ballot, all the way up to the federal level. They all do it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about doing your research about the person. Just because they can throw lipstick on the pig, which is their sign, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're truly all about. I think as citizens, we owe ourselves that from the school board level
Hmm.
on a local decision, and we do that same thing with the commissioners who are running, whether it be now or next year. I think we've got to start holding ourselves accountable, because truthfully, if you go to Manatee County, they don't really care who we vote for school board representative. They don't care who
Nope.
we vote for city commission. If you go to
Nope.
Charlotte County, they don't
I
care
was just
either.
gonna say, yeah, same with Charlotte County. I don't care.
But
Hmm.
all these things matter. What are some of the? Give me like a top three questions. And we didn't prep for this, so give me top three questions that you would direct at somebody now who's running for city commission, based on your history as a couple times over commissioner.
Couple.
Yeah.
Um, I would say one, what do you see as the biggest hurdle in the city? I would also ask specifics about the city's makeup. You know, I want to know if they understand uh, the size, and do they understand what are the needs of the East End versus those in, Sable Trace. I want to know that they understand that there's some future projects. So, how do you feel about the future projects? How do you feel about partnering with some of these nonprofits and public entities in order to get services to the city, or even, some sort of it doesn't have to be, public services, but services in general. Um, do you understand, the biggest question is, how do you, what do you believe that, your role will be as a commissioner? And one of the key points that has always turned me off to a candidate is, one, not answering the question, um, and not answering the question in a manner that they can either say, look, I'm not even sure about that, or, honestly, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But the other thing is bashing the other candidate. Um, I don't, if I don't do negative campaigns, never did. I won't vote for someone who that's their primary goal, is to talk trash about the person they're running against. Because that tells me you have nothing you're standing on. And if you have nothing to stand on, then why would I put my faith in you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Those are just kind of some of the things, but I think that really is a matter of meeting someone one on one and seeing how they handle some of those hot situations. Because look, let's face it, it can get heated in some of those commission meetings.
Yep.
I could say hands up, there's times I didn't handle it well. Uh, so, granted, nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody's going to be uh, as calm, cool, and collective as some folks can be most of the time. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I watch some of those school board meetings and Bridget Ziegler, how she is so, and it's funny because she's younger than me. And when she first got elected and we sat on some boards, I thought, this girl's something, man. She is really something. Just the way she handles herself, her the way she talks. I knew she would be, school board's one thing, but I'm telling you, that girl's going far. Anyways, point is, some of the adversity and just the nastiness that's occurred on her board with her fellow board members, I think to myself, I don't think I'd have that kind of filter. I really don't, because my jersey just comes out and there's nothing I can do about it. And so I guess that I would like to see more Zieglers in like the city, but then on the other side, I say it wasn't me, so
Right.
I'm not sure if it really plays that much of a role. But I
Well,
don't
I've got
know. I
a
just want to.
question. I got a question from Chuck. Vanessa,
Mhm.
what do you think about bringing a non-binding referendum to the entire community as it relates to the contraction of Welland Park in order to allow you to uh, allow the community to decide whether they want our taxpayer money to continue the battle?
There's no such thing as a non-binding referendum. A referendum's a referendum. And so if you were to get a referendum that said the majority of the city of Northport is in favor of getting rid of Welland Park and letting them get dissolved into the county, odds are that a judge or even legislation or the legislature will look at it and say, you know what, your own voters said they don't want them, so we're going to support this. And then same in the opposite. I think that there's been enough money invested into Welland Park, um, and the positive return over many, many years that will be seen, um, not just from, residents and commercial property tax, uh, allocations, but overall that large scale comp plan kind of design of the city as a whole. I think that it brings more positive than negative, and that while yes, you see the city spending some fees on legal fees, but in the end it may wind up where those people might be responsible for some of those. You never know.
And Michael Rawlings had a question. Wouldn't the DNXing of Welland Park remove the tax base? And that was the reason the city did the initial investment.
Yes, it would remove that tax base. And, that can go both ways. Some people will say, okay, yes, you're going to remove the tax base, but in essence, you're not going to have to serve those persons. But the problem with that is that that tax base isn't like wild fun money. That tax base is paying back some of that initial cost that was spent on developing. West Villages. There were attorneys fees. I know I had to fly out to Tallahassee twice because of Welland Park / West Villages. Um, there were lawsuits with the county. Um, the expansion plans on things that, I mean, the money that we spent on uh, the ball field that could have been spent on, local parks. So you add on, and I'm not saying that any of it was a wrong decision by any means. We also put money of impact fees, transportation impact fees into the intersection of River Road and 41, which we didn't have to, a very large amount. So, you add all of that up, and there's been investments where that, knowing that the money was going to come back, just needed to be patient and needed to have time to recover from the economy at that time. But yeah, that tax base would be gone, but in the same token, so will that comprehensive plan of the overall city, which I can't stress enough that if you don't have a certain percentage of commercial versus your percentage of residential, you are destined to fail as a government. And what happens is that you wind up out taxing your residents because you can't support the needs. And they're not wants, they're needs. You have to pick up the trash, folks. you know,
Yep.
you have to have a police department. You have to have road and drainage. Look at Kentucky. You have to have a drainage department and a road department because I'm going to tell you right now, 99.9% of Kentucky's problem was that drainage is atrocious. Um, so these are things you have to have, and they cost money. And as the economy goes up, so does the cost of doing business. And the government doesn't sit there and say, how do we screw the individual homeowner? It's this is how much we got to come up with. How are we going to do this? Well,
So,
if you don't have that commercial base, guess who's paying for it, folks?
and that's I'm going to circle this right back around because we've got about 7 minutes left in the show, and
Where'd it go?
I know we started out with talking about the vote. If you don't
Hmm.
understand the value of the vote, understand
Hmm.
this: if something does happen with de-annexation and it's a negative impact to the city of Northport, I'm going to make a prediction right now based on every show that I've done with everybody out there, including yourself, Vanessa, and you may actually say
Hmm.
the same thing. Be prepared for higher taxes in the city of Northport because we're counting on that area. That's why it was voted
Hmm.
in by people like me, and commissioners like you. You were here for the original vote. A lot of these
Yep.
people that are moving into our town who are pounding their chest right now about not wanting to be part of our town. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
they really are. it here's my thing. They're uneducated on what the end goal should be. If you're proud of your town, fine. If people sold you
Hmm.
property that they lied to you about, first off, shame on you for being that person who didn't investigate where they were buying. Okay. Second off,
Yep.
shame on the individual who sold you the property and misled you. Okay, and I as a realtor, I'm going to take the word realtor out of your mouth because that doesn't happen. Okay, the people
Hmm.
who work for these builders that are up there who do misrepresent factually, they are the builder and they're not realtors. So for
Hmm.
people who are out there trying to get educated, a couple things to remember is that when you buy a house, your home gets appraised based on where you're at. The only time they have to go outside of that area is if there's nothing else selling. So in the city of Northport, we're at one point we were the fourth most active city on U-Haul rentals, fourth in the state, and I'm sorry, not the state, in the nation, fourth in the nation. Okay, so think of numbers, add those up, and then realize what you have. Second off, if you bought a home and somebody's told you that on the other side of Northport a house sold and now your property value is going to go down, stop listening to that person. If they give you directions, to the store, validate them. If they tell you who to vote for, definitely vote for the other person. Okay. I'm telling you right now, you're being misled. You're taking a walk down the street that is in Northport, in most cases, and really, people need to enlighten themselves of the burden of maybe being uneducated on where they live. And I'm gonna let you take the next 3 minutes, because I figure I might have hit everything you wanted to say there, but if there's anything you want to add.
Well, I do want to say that, it's not all bad. I am very glad that we do have a resident from Welland Park that's running for office, because I think that only then will we see this combined unity of the two. And of course, when I say a resident of Welland Park running, I'm talking about someone who is positive for the city of Northport, who doesn't want to de-annex and then actually wind up being reappointed the seat from the governor. But in summary, having someone from the area be on the city commission will enlighten folks in a very drastic way, and I think that's really a positive thing. I really do.
I
Um,
haven't
and
found any.
honestly, I think the majority of people who live in Welland Park, one, did not know what they were signing. Two, did not understand the consequences for themselves, because while there's consequences for the city, there is a way larger consequences for the individual resident in Welland Park if it de-annexes. Um, and I think that the majority of them, from what I hear, actually like Northport and have absolutely no complaints. And I think that to have people tell you that any differently is just, I don't know. But long
I'm,
story short, I think we see some good changes coming. I do.
I'm gonna remind people that waste management is county. If you're for environment, you're not for waste management, because everything goes to the dump. Okay. If you're for the city of Northport and you're for the environment, we are probably among the top 2% in recycling in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
I do shows on this all the time. I talk about it all the time. And it's organizations like our Public Works that get out there, find creative ways to keep our tax dollars being spent the right way. Not only that, but then try to get the biggest return they can for our tax dollars. It's to me, that's just one example of why there's pride in Northport. And your streets, no matter where you're at, they're clean, they're picked up, the trash is taken care of. And if you're doing your recycling at all like you're supposed to, $450,000 a year gets credited back to the city based on the recycling program. You don't get that with waste management. Waste management charges you dollars, and guess what's going up each and every year? So you can project all you want to. I'd rather go with the city that's actually trying to mitigate costs versus one that has no choice but to pay the fee.
Well, you remember that when there was a big conversation about us, uh, outsourcing our solid waste department, and I was adamantly against it because what happens is that, you lose all of that, you lose your employees, you lose your equipment, and then, yes, you get locked into this price for your residents, but then all of a sudden they start raising them,
right.
and you have no control over it. So,
Well, and that's coming because each time I do the show, the waste management personnel come on and they do nothing but talk about the fees that are going to be driven up, and they're not slowing down. And you know,
no, the
we're
fees, I agree with you there. I mean, there's fees that are being driven up, as far as, doing the price, the cost of doing business. But I can tell you that our department, the solid waste department, is phenomenal. They're always looking at ways to, I mean, I can't even speak high enough of them because they've just found ways to, um, reverse the effects of some of the things that have been placed on municipalities, and others have had to eat it
right,
and really raise those fees dramatically.
right.
But our manager is just incredible,
Well,
incredible.
they gave an
Always
example
has been.
that $450,000, when you equate it out, that's one brand
Mm-hmm.
new trash truck that taxpayers don't
Mm-hmm.
have to pay for. Now, think about that. When Waste Management needs a new trash truck, they just address
Mm-hmm.
the contract, they address the fees, and you just pay for it.
Yes.
And each and every citizen pays for that. So, the grass is greener on the other side. I'd have to give that maybe 5% of the time, and that's on very, very cautious grounds. But 95% risk, 95% risk that the grass is greener on the other side. Be very, very careful. I've ended the show on the radio, and we've gone over a couple minutes already. But I really
Story of
appreciate
our
you.
life, right?
Day in the life, and it is Friday, so I have to admit
Mm-hmm.
how Pete started out the show. It is happy hour somewhere. It is now 4 o'clock or 4:02, and I'm at home. You're at work, but I'll cook.
I'm still at work.
So
All right, well, you have one for me, fine, sir, because I'll be here at work for some time yet.
I will do that. And thank you to the listening audience and anybody who participated today. Thanks. Have a great day.
Absolutely.
Make sure you share this. This is John Rawlings with
All
the National
right.
I'm saying thanks and have a good weekend. Be safe. Bye bye.
Take care.